morning. I am Alicia O'Neill, the Senior Associate Vice President for Operations here at GW, and I am pleased to welcome you to the housewarming for our newest residence hall, South Hall. Traditionally, a housewarming party is held to welcome family and friends to a new home, and they bring gifts to symbolize the start of a new family in their new home. Today, we come together to plant native plants to welcome South Hall to our university community, and to do so, we will hear from our university's leadership as well as some of our students. So thank you for coming. Before we do begin and hear from our leadership, I wanted to take a brief moment and thank a few people without whom today would not be possible. Today represents the efforts of many from throughout the university community and our neighbors and beyond, but specifically some of those that have been closest to the bricks and mortar of this building that we celebrate today. Dim Jim CGS Architects and their project manager, Colin McCracken, the team at Clark Construction that's been led by project manager Kareem Farouki and project superintendent John Swaggart, and the GW operations team and our project manager, Helen Weimer-Skirch. So if we could take a moment and recognize them. Now, to begin our program, I'm pleased to introduce Lou Katz, the university's Executive Vice President and Treasurer. Lou?
Thank you, Alicia. Good morning. Isn't this a beautiful residence hall? It's amazing. Thank all of you for joining us today for this housewarming. As I walked through the building this morning, I was marveled at the spectacular features and thought back to breaking ground on this site 2 years ago. We were here in 2007, standing literally on tennis courts, and looking behind us was the School Without Walls, one of DC's best high schools, but housed in an antiquated building in need of a complete overhaul. Thankfully, we at the university and the School Without Walls were able to expand our programmatic partnership into a development partnership. As a result, the school was renovated in its former home, and you can see from this that the beautiful facility that's been built, and that was the opening on that was about a month ago, I believe. And GW constructed the building that we're at today. It's our first residence hall that was built to LEED standards, something that we are very proud of. South Hall is part of a larger story of how GW is working to deliver enhanced facilities for all of our students. Over the past decade, we've added nearly 2,500 beds here in Foggy Bottom, including those in Potomac House, Ivory Tower, Townhouse Row, Amsterdam Hall, and 1959 East Street. Like these new residence halls, South Hall provides a world-class living and learning environment that we hope will help the undergraduate students living here to succeed academically during their senior year here at GW. As we look forward to future developments on campus, I look forward to repeating the sustainable standards set at this hall today. At GW, we will have a groundbreaking on September 12th for a community garden in the 2300 block of 8th Street. And we'll start work in just a few weeks to redevelop the parking lot, which is next to this site. And this project, which now has approximately 30 parking spots, will be a green plaza with a large lawn and landscaped areas. As the year continues, GW will create its own climate action plan, compete again in both the Eco Challenge and the Recycle Mania, continue to maintain our first green roof at 1957 East Street, and open next fall our second residence hall built to LEED standards, Pelham Hall at the Mount Vernon campus. All of these are reasons that I am confident that our practices in green infrastructure will continue to strengthen our university. There are many people from across the university who have come together to build this South Hall, and I thank everyone for their countless hours of dedication to this project and to our university. I know the students living here will recognize these efforts daily, and I'd like for all of us to give a round of applause to all of those who've made this possible. I'd also like to thank the students who are here today, particularly those who are part of Campaign GW. These students played an important role in making sure that everyone understood how important this new residence hall is for our students. And they came out in large numbers to share this with the Zoning Commission during the 2006 hearings. They were truly critical to our success in gaining approval of not only this project, but our overall campus plan and Square 54. I'm counting on them and all of you to continue the momentum, to stay engaged, and to be part of our efforts as we continue to work together to build types of new facilities that we need to further GW as a world-class institution here in GW. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Bob Chernak, our Senior Vice President for Student and Academic Support Services.
Thank you, Lou, for that very extensive and very well-researched introduction. And thank you all for your attendance today, this morning, I guess, to celebrate the opening of GW's newest residence hall, now affectionately referred to as South Hall. I guess I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank all of those colleagues of mine who really were instrumental in building this hall. Certainly, the support of the Board of Trustees, and I don't know if we have any members here this morning, but their support, President Knapp, obviously Vice President Katz, and I guess I would be overlooking an important player, President Emeritus Stephen Joel Trachtenberg, who also was here in the initial negotiations with the city for the School Without Walls. This is a real special occasion for many of us, particularly the seniors. The seniors will probably think back to those days, perhaps in Thurston, when you were in a 6 or maybe lucky enough to be in a 5 or a 4 or a 3. And looking back on that experience and then contrasting that to the opportunities here in South Hall, to be in the privacy of your own bedroom and yet have a suite arrangement where, as GW students, always strive to be a part of a community within that suite. So this building recognizes those preferences that particularly our seniors have, and they now have virtually their own residence hall as their own identity to be proud of. You heard a reference from Executive Vice President Katz about where we were in beds a decade ago. I think he mentioned a 2,500 increase. I've been here now for 22 years, so I can go back a little bit longer, and I can think back to 1990, which is about 19 years ago, where we had less than 3,000 beds in the university campus inventory for housing. We've seen an increase now of over 150% since 1990. We have a residence hall capacity of 7,500 students. And let me just punctuate that statistic a little further, and I'm digressing just a little bit from my comments, but I mentioned that this is primarily a senior hall. I can remember back in 1990 when seniors comprised only 25% of that class who lived in residence. So 25% of the seniors in 1990 lived in university residence halls. This year, with a much larger senior class, incidentally, than in 1990. More than 50% of our seniors have, in fact, chosen to remain residents in the GW housing inventory. And a lot of that is due not only to the hopefully favorable experience they've had during their first 3 years in the residence hall system, but also the fact that they see the efforts that the university is making to really try to accommodate to their own individual lifestyles and needs. We have a lot of speakers today, and I don't want to take up too much time, but you might, especially for the residents, you might recall that you saw a lot of H2O signs when you moved in. This is a beautiful edifice, really an architectural marvel. You're going to hear a lot about the university's commitment to sustainability, so I don't want to steal President Knapp's thunder. But what I think is important to note is that a GW student, and this is sort of that handoff from what the architects had in mind in terms of the sustainability of this building and where GW students pick up the baton. You saw these H2O signs because a GW student was successful in getting a grant from Britta for water bottles and for filters. Now, let me just cite one statistic to show you and to punctuate the university's commitment to sustainability. When residents use the filters that were supplied under this grant, we will actually save 250,000, hear that, 250,000 bottles by using those filters. So saving the fossil fuels that are used to make those bottles and the landfill that's used to put them away after you use them. It takes about 1,000 years for those bottles to biodegrade. So that's just one example of how GW students are involved in the university's commitment to sustainability. When we say we bleed buff and blue, anyone who's familiar with an artist palette will know that buff and blue combined make green. It's early in the morning. I know not everyone is going to get that. So I think that illustrates where we are as a university community. So I thank all those involved in the building of this project. I thank the seniors for sticking with us and having the opportunity to live in this grand structure. And I say to the rising juniors and sophomores and freshmen who are in attendance, you have something very special to look forward to in the future. So thank you, and without further ado, let me call upon the president of our Residence Hall Association, a junior, but who will be graduating in May because she came with a lot of AP credits, Jessica Yeager, to talk about the student experience. Jessica?
Welcome, fellow students, staff, faculty, and members of the GW and Foggy Bottom community. I'm excited to be able to join you in celebrating the opening of what is sure to be one of the greatest residence halls on this campus. The university broke ground for this building during the first semester of my freshman year, and so I've had the pleasure of seeing it go from an empty lot called Square 80 to a beautiful residence hall named South Hall. For the seniors who reside here, South Hall represents the full cycle of the college experience, starting from little and in a few years growing into something much greater. As a student, I can tell you that living in a residence hall is one of the most important aspects of a college student's life. South Hall embodies what students desire most, a comfortable living environment of both privacy and community living. At the same time, this building is evidence of the university's commitment to provide an outstanding residential experience for its students, as well as its dedication to sustainability and green living. South Hall brings the senior class back home. It provides seniors with the opportunity to stay on campus and in one community, rather than being spread across the many residence halls on our two campuses. For the students who have lived on campus for the entire duration of their stay at GW, like myself, it has been apparent that this building is the capstone to the GW living experience, once again climbing above the standard of college residential life. It is now my great pleasure to introduce President Stephen Knapp. As the first residence hall to open under President Knapp's administration, South Hall represents his own his own efforts towards sustainability and the success of the students. I have no doubt that this will be a model for GW moving ahead in the future. Please join me in welcoming President Stephen Knapp.
Thank you. Thank you, President Yeager, for that very kind introduction. And it's nice to be introduced by a fellow native of Bergen County, New Jersey, and I just wanted to note that. This was, in fact, the first place, very early in my presidency, within the first few weeks that I was a new president of the George Washington University, that I received my first groundbreaking shovel. And I've come back today so that I can add to the collection my first housewarming trowel. So that's going to be happening a little bit later. We're going to be planting. And what we're going to be doing is planting along this wall here, which is covered with a trellis that will eventually sport a really beautiful growth of trumpet vine flowers going up to the height of that wall, which will attract butterflies and themselves be, I think, a symbol of ecological diversity and integration, and will stand symbolically for the values that we've really brought to this project here. By the way, I want to join Lou Katz in recognizing that that groundbreaking was really organized, and I was introduced also by a student at that time, Gina Fernandez, who was at that point in our history was the head of our campaign GW, this extraordinary group of students who have really led the charge in developing our campus, producing a campus plan, holding us to standards of environmental responsibility and sustainability. And Gina's here somewhere, and who is now, by the way, a graduate student studying higher education here at GW, and we're watching her career unfold with great interest. But just one example of the passion of that our students are bringing to the beautification, the development, the enhancement, and the sustainable values that we're really integrating with all of our projects here at the George Washington University. And Vice President Chernak, Bob, has spoken very eloquently about some of the features of this. I've been following with great interest our efforts to strive for the highest possible LEED standard in designing and executing this project. Everything from the insulation materials that are being used to the access to light and air, and you see the beauty of the architecture that integrates all those features. This is going to be a model, as several speakers have noted, for the way we're going to be approaching our construction projects throughout this university for many years to come now. We've already built sustainable standards into our 20-year campus plan, and we're really raising the bar on the standards that we've already set with this project. There are many people to thank who have already been mentioned, from our construction and architectural partners to the students who have been involved, as I've mentioned, but I really want to single out the staff working with Lou and with Lou Katz and Alicia O'Neill, because they really have, I think, stepped up to the call to build at the highest possible standards and really to incorporate those values of sustainability that have become part of really one of the central priorities, certainly of my administration and I think of this university community, with the support of the Board of Trustees, with the engagement of the faculty, led by the passions of our students. We are really moving forward. I want to make just two other notes here, mention two other notes. One is that behind this wall, soon to be adorned with trumpet vine flowers, is one of the most important institutional partners that we enjoy here in the District of Columbia, and that's the School Without Walls. As you can see, it's not literally without walls altogether, because you're looking at one of the walls that kind of holds it up there. But as Lou has mentioned, you know, that was a twin project to this one. That was a case of taking an historic building and raising it to new standards of beauty and environmental responsibility. And I hope that if you haven't done so, you get a chance to walk around the block and look at that beautifully renovated facility from G Street. As we're facing F Street here, it faces G Street just behind us. And I very much want to recognize an important partner of mine whom I first met at the groundbreaking for this building back in the fall of 2007, and that's Principal Richard Trogish, who's here with us in the front of the room here. So if you please would recognize him. And you know, one of the exciting things that happened this fall was that in addition to being able to open these two buildings, which really celebrate our partnership with the School Without Walls and through the School Without Walls with the public schools here in the District of Columbia, we've actually further developed our academic partnership. For decades now, we've had GW students teaching and learning, tutoring in the School Without Walls. We've had School Without Walls students taking many of our classes. Well, we've taken that another step with the creation this year of our early college program, in which 14 very qualified, and I've met them, extraordinarily articulate, qualified, talented, dedicated, ambitious students from the School Without Walls are going to be spending 2 years receiving their associate's degree. So they'll finish the first 2 years of college here at GW and then graduate from the School Without Walls with both those degrees. And it's an extraordinary program. We're very proud to be part of it. And what I'm especially pleased to see is an academic program coming online at the same time as these two buildings as a further symbol of our partnership. So, Richard, it's been great to work with you, and we look forward to continuing that relationship. And the other group I want to mention, in addition to the students and the staff and our institutional partners here, the other group I want to mention is our neighbors. We've worked with them very closely, and I hope, and in many ways, tried to respond to their interests and their concerns and their questions about this project. I know a lot of them were there when we had the groundbreaking. Some of them I've seen passing on the way into this event this morning, but I hope that this is a project that they can be proud of as a new gem in their Foggy Bottom neighborhood. We love to have our neighbors come onto our campus. Many of them take courses here as well. We just had a reception at the new residence where my wife Diane and I now reside, also on F Street, also facing south on F Street as it happens, just a few blocks over here. And we had a reception for our neighbors and talked about this project, and everything we're doing here is, I think, going to improve that partnership as well and continue to see that develop as they become more and more proud of what it means to have a university committed, as we are, to standards of architectural beauty and to environmental responsibility and sustainability here in Foggy Bottom. So thank you all for coming, and I look forward to breaking a little bit of ground here as we complete our housewarming ceremony in just a few moments. Thank you. Thanks again, and congratulations to everyone who's been involved in making this extraordinary project possible.
Thank you, President Knapp. I'd now like to invite President Knapp to lead us in our ceremonial planting. So if our representatives can step forward.